Hey guys, it's Will and I hope you're having a great day. Whenever I do a video on farming and ranching, whether it's political or not, I inevitably get the same question when I mention that I do agroforestry. And that question, of course, is, hey Will, what's agroforestry? So today I'm going to take a few minutes to break down what agroforestry is and why it's so critical to the future of our planet and farming. So at a really high level, what is agroforestry? Well, simply put, it's a land management program that allows us to combine agriculture and forestry. Instead of growing crops and livestock separately, agroforestry mixes them with trees and shrubs. This combo improves the soil, boosts productivity, and helps the environment in many different ways. The really cool part about agroforestry is that there are several ways you can practice it. So let's talk about those. So the first method of agroforestry is silvopasture. And silvopasture integrates livestock like cattle with the growth of trees. Animals get shade, it reduces the heat stress, and the trees can provide additional income through timber or fruit. Now the best way I can get you to picture this is just imagine that typical field or pasture when you're driving through a farming community and you see grass growing across the pasture with a lot of livestock standing out there in it. In agroforestry, we would come in and we would plant rows of trees or shrubs that would give us a second crop over time to make money. And while those trees and shrubs grow, they can provide shade and reduce stress on the livestock we would normally have grazing in those fields. The second method of agroforestry is what we call alley cropping, and it's very similar to what we just talked about when we talked about silvopasture. In alley cropping, farmers plant rows of trees with crops growing in between them. And this does a couple of things for the plants. The trees provide protection from wind and sun, and their roots help keep the soil healthy for the plants or the crops growing in between the rows of trees. The next method of agroforestry has been around for a long time, but we're focusing more and more on making it profitable. Windbreaks are rows of trees planted to protect fields from wind damage. They keep the soil in place and they reduce erosion. In agroforestry, what we do when we plant those trees is ensure that they're also a new form of income for the farm. So we might plant Chinese chestnuts, we might plant walnut trees, anything that can bring us an income over time. And finally, one of the fastest growing areas of agroforestry is forest farming. Forest farming is where farmers grow crops like mushrooms, ginseng, or herbs in the shaded environment of a forest that already exists. While forest farming is one of the riskiest types of agroforestry because it's very difficult to get some plants to grow, it's also the most profitable. So now that we know what agroforestry is, let's talk about its benefits. And the benefits are many. First, it boosts biodiversity, and it does that by supporting a wide variety of plants and animals and insects. And all of this combined together makes the soil stronger, it boosts resistance to disease, and just helps the environment in ways that we can't even imagine. Agroforestry also fights climate change, and the way it does this is just the way you would imagine. By increasing the number of trees that we use when raising regular row crops and feeding and grazing animals out in the field, we actually take more carbon out of the atmosphere because of that increased number of trees. Agroforestry also drastically improves soil health, and it does that in a couple of different ways. First, the roots of trees reach down into the soil and they help hold it together. That prevents it from being blown away in high winds or washing away with high water. And leaves over time create a natural compost which adds nutrients to the soil. And finally, as we mentioned before, agroforestry creates new income streams. Like I said before, you take a pasture that right now or in the past is only grazing cattle, and you plant fruit and nut trees in lines in that field, which allow you to create a new crop over time while still raising those same cattle. Likewise, in a field where we would normally just plant row crops like corn and soybeans or wheat, now we plant those same trees, fruits or nuts, and over time they begin to produce a second income stream to go along with the row crops we have planted there. Here on my own farm, we use agroforestry in a lot of different ways. Primarily the plants that we have right now are Chinese chestnut trees, elderberries, blackberries. Over time, we hope to start a milling operation to turn Chinese chestnuts into gluten-free flour that can be sold all over the United States. The bottom line is, guys, is that agroforestry is the future of sustainable farming. But it's not just beneficial to farmers. Supporting agroforestry helps boost the economy, it helps save the environment, and in the long term, it's good for everyone, farmer or city slicker alike. Now, if I could give a shameless plug for my own content, I've got something I want to tell you. I'd really appreciate it if you would follow me and like my content and share it with other people, because over time, we're not only going to be doing political content on here. Remember, I'm your favorite local campaign and elections expert, but we're also going to be talking in more detail about farming and ranching and agroforestry. And if you subscribe to my channel, we're going to find new and creative ways to get you involved in the farm. You're going to help us select what crops to plant, the design patterns that we're going to use and plant them, and different ways to sell them in the marketplace. In other words, you're going to become an agroforester right from the comfort of your own home. And I'd be remiss, everybody, if I didn't say two things. Thank you for supporting the channel, and I hope you have a great day.